I think something that is not just unique to hospitality and food and beverage, but I'm sure is unique to skilled trade businesses and HVAC like yourself. But when we're talking about staffing businesses, my goodness, talk about, she starts sweating.
Welcome to the Lasting Business Solutions Podcast, Indy's Launchpad to sustain business success, growth, and leadership. My name's Renee Lucas. I'm your host, and I'm so excited for our guest today, who's actually from the same small town as Travis and I, Seymour, Indiana.
That's right.
And living right now, though, in Louisville, Kentucky, where he owns and runs very successful restaurant and catering company. Kris Cole, thank you so much for joining me today. It's great to have you up here in Indy.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
We talk all the time about visiting other companies, seeing their operations, and that's exactly what we've done today. So we actually are doing what we are preaching. I promise that.
That's it. We are absolutely doing what we preach every day.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Kris, I'm going to run through really quick just to give our listeners a little bit of an idea of your business journey. So back in 2018, you and your wife, Adrienne, you started a private corporate cafe, Waystar Cafe, right, down in Louisville.
That's correct.
2019, developed a catering company, Marigold Catering.
Yes.
And then a few years later, in 2023, opened up your first restaurant, House of Marigold.
That's correct.
And then shortly after 2024, you're on a roll. You opened up the second location of House of Marigold.
We did.
All right. So take us through that journey a little bit. So for you and Adrienne, did you always have a dream of being a business owner? Did you have a business plan laid out? How did you really get started?
Yeah. No, great question. I think it was different for both of us. Myself, I was always a little bit of an entrepreneur, even as a kid.
Yeah.
When we lived in Seymour, Indiana, at 12 years old, I convinced the trustee at the cemetery by our house to let me come and mow. Terrible decision on his part, but I was convinced that I was. So I've always had this entrepreneurial bug that's always been biting at me. Adrienne, on the other hand, had to really be drug into this life. She was very much a corporate-centric, career-driven woman.
Yep.
She loved where she was at. She found it just absurd to want to, go start a business.
There's a lot of security and stability and everything that comes with that corporate background where she came from, right? And so I'm sure it was super scary. And especially, you have a family to support. And so to think about how are we going to make our own money doing this? How are we going to have benefits? All of those sorts of things.
All of those things were her questions, very valid questions, very reasonable questions when you're talking about putting your life on the line, financially speaking.
Yeah.
Very solid questions. Kind of where we ended up and what we landed on was I was in a position at a place in Louisville called Chef Space. I was working with other entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs, folks that wanted to start a food and beverage business.
Aren't we all wannabes at one time?
Of course. Yeah. You've got to be a wannabe before you be a can be.
Yeah, I like that.
So I was watching these folks and technically guiding these folks from a kitchen standpoint, and I'm just like, telling myself every day, like, I can do that, I could do that.
And probably better is what we're saying.
And if we're being honest, maybe a little better.
Yeah.
But when I went to Adrienne with those sentiments, she's like, we're stable. We've got good careers. We got good salaries. We got health insurance.
Retirement plan.
We've got a 401. We've got all of these things that are stability and the things that we ultimately seek. But I convinced her to go the other way.
That's what I say and that says a lot for her because she's got to have a little bit of that bug in her too to be able to take that leap and try it because it's scary. It's you feel like you're hanging off of a cliff making a jump.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yes, it was much further of a leap for Adrienne to make than myself.
Sure.
And probably because I am far less responsible than her. I'm far less organized. I am very much a person that, I get what I think's a great idea and I'm going to go do it.
Just go.
I don't care what happens. I don't even care what the end result is ultimately.
Yeah.
It's the process and the journey of getting to do it that I just love.
And I'm sure with Adrienne knowing you in that way, that's probably a little bit of what was scary for her too, right? Is that like, hey, we're not thinking about, it doesn't sound like there was an elaborate business plan or anything that was laid out when we got started.
No.
We talk all the time. Travis and I were the same way. It was like, hey, this would be kind of cool. And if it doesn't work out, we'll figure it out. We'll get a job somewhere. We've got this to fall back on. It's fine. And you just go. Right? Now, Kris, you were talking, just to back up a little bit, you've come from the restaurant industry. You've been in the restaurant industry for a long time. Is that kind of on the corporate side? Was that where Adrienne was too, or was this a brand new industry for her?
No, Adrienne, it's been her entire life. She was actually educated as an elementary school teacher, is what she went to college for. But I think from maybe 18 years old, when she started college, she was a server. Loved it. When you get in the hospitality industry, it's a real love. It's a passion industry. Nobody gets into the food and beverage industry because we've got the best salaries or the best work benefits, the best work-life balance. None of that really exists in our industry. It's a passion project is really what gets people hooked in.
It's crazy because that passion is what makes people successful business owners too, because when it gets hard, when we've got the late nights, when we've got all that risk out there, we know that we can just keep providing that best customer service. We can keep providing that best experience for people, and that drives business owners, right? But Absolutely. It can also take away from the business side of running that business. So when you started, were you doing the day-to-day work? Were you cooking? What did it look like for you when you started the corporate cafe?
So when we had this little small Waystar corporate cafe, we were just feeding the people that were in this building. It was Waystar's a medical tech company. We were serving breakfast and lunch to about 400 people on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. Adrienne was up front on the cash register, just like she would be normally in the front of the house. I was back in the back by myself, and we hired a couple of people to work with us. Like you said, we didn't start with a business plan. Now, if I'm going to make recommendations, moving forward in this conversation, start with a business plan.
Yeah,
but
we'll talk about that.
we did not start with a business plan.
Yeah.
We started it because I knew how to work in a kitchen. Adrienne knew how to work and run a restaurant, and that was the extent of the experience. We knew that we could produce the food and treat people well in a hospitable manner. But as far as running a business, I bounced the first check on payroll because I thought I could run QuickBooks.
Right. And you don't know what you're doing, right?
Not a clue.
What credits, debits, what does any of that mean, right? Kris, as crazy as that, like we could be talking about it and we can look back and say, had we lost our minds? Like what were we thinking when we did that, right? But I swear 90% of businesses start out that way, probably higher than that. You start out as a technician, and that technician is whatever you're good at, right? For you, it's cooking. For us, it's HVAC. But you start out with this. We had literally the same goals when we started our business, even though we're in completely different industries, right? Yep. So how did you come to go from the corporate cafe to the catering company to the House of Marigold?
Yeah. This is where business planning comes in. This is where we started doing what we did for pretty much, we just wanted to work for ourselves, right? We wanted to make money, but we wanted to just work for ourselves.
Flexibility. Right. Nobody can tell you what to do.
All those things.
Yeah, I get it.
So none of that's true, by the way.
Right. I know.
So the next steps were to be intentional, to build a business plan. We had this beautiful kitchen that we couldn't actually have people from the general public come and access. So how can we take this kitchen that we have and then reach people? So the next step, logically, was to cater, because we've got the space. We can go out and meet people where they're at.
Right.
So we sat down and we built a business plan around a catering business.
How did you learn to do that? Or was it real formal? Was it a piece of paper with kind of some scratches on it and just ideas that came out of your head? Like, how did you go from, I don't know how to run a business and I bounced our first check, to we built a business plan?
It's using your resources. There are a ton of resources that you may or probably do not know about. You may know some of them, but when I was working at Chef Space, I worked a lot with the Small Business Administration. They have a great stable of business owners, former business owners that are just mentors. They were there for calls, they're there for texts, you can shoot them an email. So there's a lot of resources out there that you can tap into. When you start a business, you're not going to know 99% of what you need to know.
Right.
So you have to have an avenue or a resource that you can get that information from.
That's a really great resource that you just gave, because I think we hear about the Small Business Administration or maybe the SBA, or we see something. Our first loan was an SBA loan. But then you kind of forget about it. And as you're sitting here talking, I was even thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what resources could I use for my own business that I haven't even thought of looking into? So that's great that you tapped into that, and that helped kind of guide you on how to create that.
And we, after, I'd worked with those folks and those counselors, and I'd sat in the meetings when they're telling other entrepreneurs, like, you need to do this, and it needs to look like this. So, you're right. It starts with a notebook, and we scratched out a business plan with a pencil and paper, and then we refined it. We made it to where when you read through it, it made sense.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like some far-fetched madness. When you get down to your financial projections, you want them to really feel real to you, and they're not just, made up numbers.
Yep.
Once you start like really putting things on paper, you can start developing a big picture of what it's all going to look like in the end.
And that's really a vision that you're describing, right? Is getting that out of your head and getting it on a paper. I think the first step that so many people miss is just trying, right? And just starting with, I can't tell you how many times Travis and I have started from a list, right? Like, we'll just start making a list of something, and then from there, we'll talk about it, we'll discuss it, we'll brainstorm it, we'll look at it, we'll scratch things off, we'll add to it, and then it develops into maybe more of an outline. And then from there, it develops into more of a plan or something like that. But that's a really key thing to remember, is just try. Just try. Start.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And I think, did you ever have any mentors at this point where you could show this to, or was that a little too early before you really started networking and mentoring? No,
we were very fortunate early on. Adrian and I have both been pretty much lifelong members since we were adults. Me, even before I was an adult, I started working in a kitchen when I was 15. We had already worked with so many great people, so many experienced people. We had worked for business owners, people that owned restaurants that we'd worked in. So we had some wonderful mentors that could, that we could call upon, that we could, make the phone calls and the text messages to. And then once we actually started business, that's when Adrian and I got very, very intentional about seeking mentorship. We were really reaching out to people who had done everything that we wanted to do, not everything we've done, but you start reaching out to people who have already done it. And that's your greatest asset right there, because they've already built the roadmap.
I know. Just follow it.
Yeah, you just got to follow along.
Yeah, that's what I was like. It doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be a brand new thing. You might take a little side road here and there, and make it your own or whatever. But that's the biggest thing, is so many people. I know when we first started reaching out to people and finding mentors, we felt like we were taking and taking and taking and taking from everybody. And Travis and I would say, are we ever going to be able to offer anything of value to anybody else? You do. You gain some experience. You have experience shares with people. It just naturally happens. You just have to trust that it does, and not be afraid to just know that you're going to feel like you're taking for a little bit. You just are.
And you are. And you're supposed to be taking. They're a mentor and you're a mentee for a reason.
Yeah.
When you get to, we call it leveling up, when you level up to where your information is valuable enough for you to be a mentor, then people take from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're giving. So it's just a natural cycle of what we do.
It is. And I love it. And you'll find the most successful business owners do that.
Yep.
They're not scared to ask. They don't let anything hold them back. They're not afraid of being embarrassed or afraid of being called a fool or something like that. It's just take the chance. Yep. Right.
And something we find in the hospitality industry and the food and beverage world is everything what you just said, but also the folks who are more interested in collaborating with folks instead of competing with folks.
Yes.
you tend to go so much further. Your business is so much stronger because you got so many other people out there that you can rely on,
Yeah.
that you can kind of lean on, folks that speak well about you. It's much better that we found to be a collaborator as opposed to a competitor.
I love that. That is a great piece of advice. One of my first mentors, she was the owner of an HVAC company up in Fishers, and we met, and she invited me to her shop, and she shared all. She was like, "This is who we use for marketing. This is who we use for this. This is who we use for this." And I was like, "I can't believe you're sharing all this with me. We're competitors." And she was like, "There's enough work for everybody." And ever since then, we met. They've retired since, but we would meet once a quarter, generally for breakfast. And we would just talk about, man, these are some of the hardships we're experiencing right now. How's this for you? How's this for you? Any ideas on this? One of the most valuable things from that, sometimes you're going to get people that come through your business that just aren't a great fit for one reason or another. And if you have somebody in particular, in our industry, we're sending people into people's homes. So if we have somebody who, we might not want to send into people's homes and represent, they might know that person, right? Hey, I know this, and it gets around really fast, and it's great to have those relationships.
Yeah, no, it is 100%.
Yeah. So then, how did we go from catering into deciding that we were going to open an actual restaurant?
Tough decision, honestly. The intention was never to have a restaurant. So in our business, you want to cater.
Okay.
Your margins, your net profits, you want to cater.
Okay, that's where
you
it's
don't
at.
want to own a restaurant.
So the restaurant was not in the business plan.
So the restaurant, it was never in the business plan, okay. And I would discourage folks from opening a restaurant, not out of a unsympathetic or out of a position of losing my passion, but just the logistics and the business itself. It's, restaurant industry and food and beverage industry, or, aside from the staffing that you deal with in every other industry, you're dealing with perishable inventories, you're dealing with things measured in minutes and hours and not days, weeks, months, or years.
Sure, yeah.
A very, very difficult business. But what we did was we were looking for a new kitchen to go into for our catering business. Our lease was up downtown. The company that we were leasing from was leaving that building. They have since relocated,
okay.
So we didn't have a home.
Yeah.
So when we ended up in the restaurant industry, it was really more of just how the real estate market fell for us. Mm-hmm. We scoured Louisville for over a year just looking for a commercial kitchen to land our catering business. It wasn't there.
Yeah.
Did we have the money to go build a brand new facility? Not even close.
Well, and you need the land, and right. Still the location matters because
still matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're still bringing out the products.
Yeah.
So what we found was there are plenty of restaurants, whether it's Indianapolis, Louisville, probably every city across the nation. You could go rent a restaurant today.
Really?
You and Travis could go sign a lease on a restaurant tonight and open tomorrow if you want. We found a local restaurant that was closing. It was, I believe, our third local restaurant that we had tried to get into. There was a couple before where we actually landed. And even when we bought the restaurant from the folks who owned it, Adrian and I still didn't have an intention to open a restaurant.
You were just going to use the kitchen.
We were just going to use the kitchen and probably use the dining room as like storage, staging, where we keep all of our catering stuff.
That's interesting, yeah.
And, what we did is we bought this place November 1 of 2022. We sat in there during Thanksgiving dinner in this restaurant that we just bought a few weeks before. We've got our family with us. The restaurant still looks the same way as when we bought it. Everything was still a wreck. The wallpaper was, the paint, the signage was, it's just
everything,
a restaurant that people just pulled everything off the walls and ran out the door.
And just left it, yeah.
So we were sitting there and we're having Thanksgiving dinner in our restaurant, and it's just like the light comes on, like, come on.
You've got to do more than use it as a storage.
Do more than this is not storage. This is a dining room.
That is so okay. That right there is small business.
That's small
business.
This
is small business. This is family-run business. This is what it's all about. When Travis and I travel, we have this rule that we only eat at local restaurants. Like no chains, no, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But that's our thing, is we want to discover the places that we can't have here. And that's one thing I'm so excited. We're actually heading to Louisville in a few weeks because I cannot wait to go to House Marigold and experience it myself. So you guys specialize in breakfast, lunch, brunch, right? What was that decision? I know the restaurant industry, my brother-in-law is a chef, your best friend, right? And so it's a tough life, and it's a very late night, kind of hard to have a really strong work-life balance on that. Was that part of your decision to stay like kind of that morning lunchtime, or was that completely different?
You hit it right on the head there. That was absolutely what we were thinking. Once we decided that, this is going to be a restaurant space and we're going to cater out of this kitchen as well, we said, how can we have a restaurant and still cater in the evening? So the natural thought was, let's open a brunch restaurant that we're open 9 to 3. We don't have to work till midnight every night closing the restaurant.
Yep.
And then if we're open from 9 to 3, after 3 p.m., we can still go cater.
Sure, absolutely.
So that was the complete idea. It sounds very simple just to say it out loud, but the process by trying to think it through was a very long and thoughtful process.
Oh, I have no doubt. Because here's the thing too, is especially when you're looking at purchasing a place and you have a specific vision in mind. And in this case, it was for the catering company only. Here's going to be storage. Here's where we're going to do all of our cooking. That's it. To develop it into something else, no matter what it is, it's overwhelming, number one, to start there, right? But there are so many options. And because you have such a robust background in the restaurant business, right? There's so many different avenues that you could take. I love that you were very intentional though, and that it was a slow process. You said to me once that you and Adrian, you don't make quick, rash decisions. And so, do you find that like throughout your journey, have all of your decisions really been well thought out like that, kind of well planned, centered around your family? Because having the kids like that, being any business owner in any industry, it's hard to have a work-life balance. Plus, you and your spouse are working together. It's really hard not to take that home sometimes. And so is that how you kind of keep that balanced, is by being really intentional with your decisions?
Yeah, you hear me say the word intentional a lot because it's a word that we say a lot. It's something that we focus on very intently, because we found if we're not intentional about how we spend our time, what we do in that time, that it muddles together.
Yeah.
Your family life goes into work, and you just got this big mess on your hands if you can't intentionally create what you want to ultimately
And again,
have.
that sounds really simple, right? How hard is it to keep work and life, like your personal life, separate?
It's difficult.
For you and Adrian?
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. We have tried numerous different things over the years to where we have hard stops on what time of day we stop working.
Impossible for a business owner.
Impossible. So we found that out. We were crazy enough to be like, all right, 6 p.m. we're going to be done, and then it's family time. Well, that's not reality sometimes.
When you're the owner, it's really not.
It's not reality.
Yeah.
So no, you most certainly. What we found is we can start our day, and these are just, numbers. We could start our day at 7 a.m. and we could say, we're going to go until 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. But throughout that 15-hour day, we know that, we've got laying at the dentist or the orthodontist. You just have to separate the personal from the work.
Yeah.
It might not all fit together perfect. It's not a perfect puzzle. But you do the best you can do, and you really try and make time for one another, try and make time for your spouse. We try and make time for each individual of our children. We don't want, our children to just feel like they're an afterthought, so we try and
or
make
second
sure,
to the business.
Right,
yeah.
We try and make sure that, we're spending time with Mason going to a soccer game because he loves soccer.
Yeah.
And we're spending time with Marley, doing what she loves to do, and we're spending time as a family. But you have to be able to separate the work and the personal a little bit.
Yeah. And Travis and I have struggled with that as well. And it's even like you've got an added layer because we don't have children, right? And you do. So it's that added layer of balancing all of those schedules on top of it. I think going back to your word of being intentional, it's like even if our personal time today is a dentist appointment, then I'm going to be present with my son when I'm at the dentist with him, right? And it may be an hour, and that's all we got today, right? But tomorrow, maybe there'll be 3 hours that we get, or Saturday might be a full day, right? You never know on how that works out. But just being intentional, that's something that I've also worked a lot on. I have lunch with my grandpa. I try to have lunch with him every week. Doesn't always happen, but when I'm there, I'll find myself sometimes like I'm on my phone the whole time. Well, I might as well not even be there. Yep. And so that's what I was like, I can take this hour and be present with where I am right now. I think that's really good advice, Kris.
No, it's great advice, not just for me, but it's something we all need to follow.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this here too makes it even harder to be present because we get so sidetracked. And it could be something like scrolling through social media, right? And it's just being present and being here for the people that are important to us.
That's it.
So Kris, through this journey that you've gone on, is there anything in business that you would say has surprised you, or maybe there was something that has happened along your journey that maybe you didn't anticipate happening?
Yes, plenty of things. I think something that is not just unique to hospitality and food and beverage, but I'm sure is unique to skilled trade businesses and HVAC like yourself. But when we're talking about staffing businesses, my goodness, talk about, she starts sweating. There are so many ups and downs and navigating, trying to find people that to fit in with the culture of the business that you know, this is your baby. You've developed this business and you want it to operate a certain way. You want things, you want people to talk like you talk and to say the things you say and present them, and that's a difficult thing to do. That takes a lot of training. That takes a lot of coaching. But before you even get to training and coaching, you've got to find the people that just will kind of fit in, that.
And some of it's even having the same values and you know what I mean? The same kind of, values is a good word for that in there. I've always said the people part of the business is what has kicked my butt the most. Like I would completely agree. It's something that, like, you can be a people person, and so it might be like, oh, this is going to be easy because I'm a people person or whatever. It's not easy. No. And then take your business, for example. Oh my gosh, probably, I would imagine you've got high school age people that you're employing, and then all the way up through the generations, part-time, full-time. I mean, you've probably got a whole spectrum, and it's hard in navigating how to even get like different generations working together. It's not easy.
No, it's not. And I tell people all the time, I used to teach culinary for a decade, prior to entrepreneurship. I was working as a chef and a culinary teacher simultaneously. But I would tell my students that exact thing almost every day. I mean, this is a business where on your left-hand side, you're going to be working with a gentleman that just did 25 years in prison and he's living in a halfway house. On your right-hand side, you got a young lady that's a PhD. She's about ready to get her, doctorate from whatever university. And we all,
you got to work together.
We're this,
And how do you do it? How do you get everybody on the same path?
We're in the same boat, and we're trying to do the same thing tonight.
Yeah. I'd say one of the things that's really helped Travis and I with that is we've really invested in some leadership training. You and I were talking about different books that we've read, and especially on leadership. Leadership is very different than managerial skills, right? It's a different skill set. And so I think, a piece of advice or suggestion that we would have is to make sure that you are taking the time to develop your own leadership skills, because those have to be strong to get the people aspect of the business to work.
Right. Your leadership skills is what sets the culture and the moral, the values. It's what sets your base for your business. 100%.
Absolutely.
Leadership's key. And like you said, leadership is not managing people. It is leading your business. It's across the board. It's leading people. It's leading processes. It's leading SOPs. It's leading everything.
The whole bit. Travis and I were just actually talking last week about how he's a coach, right? And so he has been in this business for 30 years. And so there are times when he might get frustrated or loses patience with something, or like, why are we still talking about this sort of thing? It's like, you've got to remember, you've got 30 years under your belt and you're working with somebody who might have 5, right? Or
none.
None, yes. And it's remembering, you've got to remember as a leader, like, I'm a coach. I'm coaching these people. I'm helping them find a path. We have people on our team who have never heard of like setting goals. And I would say something like, oh, we're going to set a 1-year and a 3-year goal. And they're like, they'll turn their paper back in blank. And I'm like, oh no, we missed this part down here. I need some bucket list goals down there. And Travis is one that told me, he was like, some people have never done that before. They don't know what that means. And that's leading, and that's helping people create a vision for themselves too.
It is. And through leading people, that's when you get the best and the most out of people.
Yeah.
That's when, when you can inspire people and you can, you can really get someone to have that aha moment where they're like, I'm a part of this.
Yes. And they're excited to be a part of that. That's when one of my goals in business is that we don't have to do hardcore recruiting, because we've developed a culture where people hear about us and come to us. Like, people want to be a part of this team. That is one of my ultimate goals.
That's exactly how Adrian and I operate. The last several management positions we've hired in our business have been people that have come to us like, we want to manage people in this business.
That is really awesome.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
No, that's a good feeling.
And it is for both parties, right?
Right.
Like, it's definitely, I think us as business owners, it's definitely part of our purpose and what we want to do. And it's a win-win for everybody there. And then, our consumer, our customer on the other end, it's a win for them too, because they're working with people who are all on the same page and who are all driven. It's wonderful when you get to that point.
It's a great environment. And just to elaborate on the customer side of that, something that we focus on is, if I take good care of you as my general manager, my focus as an owner is to look after you as a general manager. My focus as an owner is not really to look after the guest that's coming in.
Right.
Because if I'm properly looking after you, you're going to look after them way better.
100%.
And we do that across the board, whether you're a dishwasher to a general manager. We want people that know that they work in our business, that they're well taken care of, they're respected, they matter, their voices matter.
Yes.
And in turn, they're going to give the absolute best hospitality that...
as a business owner, your client is really your employee, right? And your employee's client are your guests that are coming in. And that's what it was like. Really, Travis and I shifted our focus when we rebuilt. That was a focus that we switched to 10 years ago. And that was one of the reasons that we invested so much in that leadership training. Going back to that, is because we weren't good leaders in the first 10 years. We were just trying to survive in the day-to-day, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to recognize that, develop those skills to develop your people, they're 100% going to take care of everybody else. And that's what creates Raving Fans, which is another great book, right? Raving Fans. So Kris, thinking back now, if you were to do this all over again, if you and Adrian were to start all over again, is there anything that you would change or do differently? Is there anything that you feel like you've learned that said, man, if I would have known that then, I would have taken a different path in this way? Or is it, nope, I would have left it just as it is and gone on?
No, plenty of things I'm sure that... I know plenty of things that I would do differently, and I'm almost certain that Adrian would say the same thing. And really the thing that probably stands out the most to me is when you go into a business as a technician, you might say, I have the best brownie recipe. Nobody makes a better brownie than me. Mm-hmm. Well, that really doesn't even matter when it comes down to business.
You're right.
Because unless you can build a brand around that brownie, the brownie's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, who cares about the brownie? That's a very difficult thing to hear from as a technician, as a cook, as a installer of HVAC systems, to have someone say, the quality of your work really doesn't matter when it comes to business.
Right.
So with that said, what I would say is that Adrian and I have really sought out good mentors. We started with the people that we knew and came up with in the industry, and then once we started working, we really started researching people in our own city and region that have done things that we have not yet done but aspire to do.
Yeah.
And every one of our mentors on the highest of level have always told us, whenever you run into something that you just don't know how to do, like me thinking, you know, I've cooked for 29 years. I can hop on this QuickBooks and I can keep our books for, you know, it ain't nothing.
It's going to take 10 minutes on an evening. That's it.
Baby, I'll spend 10 minutes a night. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
And then the reality comes and I bounce the first payroll check, and thank goodness it was just to the two of us, you know.
Sure, yeah.
But that's a very big deal.
Yeah,
it is. When you have good mentors in business, and if you don't know how to do something, you seek out the people that can do it better than you. If you can't, you know, live in the world of accounting, you go find the best accounting people. If you can't market yourself or do social media, you find the best people that you can afford at that time to do it. So always, as a business owner, don't try and put everything on your own shoulders. Do what you know how to do what you're technically capable of doing, and then learn. Take the advice, take the mentorship, learn it all, and then next time you will know how to do it.
Something that you just said that I think is worth repeating is you said, find the best that you can afford right then, right? I think so many times what deters people from finding somebody to do, like accounting, for example, is I can't afford that, right? There are different levels of everything. It might be too that you find a bookkeeper to start with that can enter those receipts for you, enter the vendor invoices, pay your bills, things like that. That might be very different than a full service accounting contract that you'd have, right?
And that's exactly what we did. That first, you know, payroll check that I bounced, the very next day, we called a friend who was a bookkeeper. She was a very small bookkeeper. She got a couple kiddos. She works out of her home.
Yep.
She charged us $150 a month to get started.
It's a no-brainer, and it's just what you needed right then,
it was
right?
Exactly what we needed in that moment. And that relationship led us to the next 2 or 3 relationships to where we are today.
You know, what's crazy is when we first started and we decided that we wanted to grow the business past what we were able to do with like networking and things like that, my first thing was we can't afford all this marketing, right? I don't know what we're doing. And we found the most amazing company right here in Indianapolis. It's a husband and wife team. They are amazing, and they built our first website, and they really started working with us with some SEO things, and they got us going. Mm-hmm. And we got to a point where they actually said to me, they said, hey, I think it's time that you move on to a little bit of a bigger company. Mm-hmm. And you build those relationships. And I think that's the thing is we're going to go back to just try, just start, just look for something. We don't have to be at the end goal when we're starting, right? And so it is. And I think that so many times that mindset gets in the way for business owners and prevents them from taking even that first step forward. So Kris, as you look ahead, right, it's really exciting to see all of these steps that you did take, right? And you did try and you did implement and you've been very intentional. And we've seen from the very beginning, so 2017, I believe it was, with the first cafe, and then really just a few months later, the catering company developed, right? And then we got through COVID. We're going to say we got through COVID.
Tough year.
Yes, very tough year, and especially in your industry. Oh, my goodness, yeah. So we survived that, and then very shortly after opening House of Marigold, we have that second location in the next year or so, right?
Yes.
What's on the horizon for you? What do you have plans for more House of Marigolds? Like what are your plans?
Yes, we do have plans for more House of Marigolds. We are in the process of constructing a new one right now in downtown Louisville.
That's so exciting.
Yes, it's fun. It's always so fun to build a new restaurant. Very exciting.
From someone who swore he was never going to have a restaurant and wouldn't recommend it. Look at this. We're on to number 3.
Look where we're at.
Yeah.
But no, yes, our plans are to continue with our hospitality business. We love what we've created. We really love, and we're so thankful and grateful every day that the people in Louisville love what we've created.
Yes.
And that they come out in droves. We've it's such a blessing, and we're so thankful that on a daily basis there's more people that want to come and eat at our restaurant than we can have seats for them to come.
Well, and I'm just like a pat on the back where it's deserved. You guys have been recognized by some really, tell us a little bit about some of the recognition that you've had recently. I know that, and Adrienne she's on podcast, and she is the face for sure.
Adrienne is the face. Adrienne has blown up into such an amazing businesswoman. It's been so fun to just watch her to grow into what she's become already. But no, our restaurant, House of Marigold, was voted the #1 new restaurant in the entire state of Kentucky.
Oh my God, what an accomplishment.
That's a big deal.
Congratulations.
Several big publications, Garden and Gun and Southern Living, things that are, household staples. We won numerous accolades in different, best new restaurant and best brunch categories and some things like that. So it's a real honor. It is.
That is, and the competition is tight, right? And we've talked about that a little bit, but the competition is tight. And when you're in a space, whether it's Indianapolis, Louisville, you can have restaurant after restaurant after restaurant after restaurant. And so the fact that you guys have set yourselves apart, if you need a road trip down to Louisville, let's just say when you take a road trip down to Louisville, make sure House of Marigold is on that list. I was just saying, this is my favorite teacup, right? I absolutely love it. It is, the attention to detail in it is just, that's how I haven't been to your place yet, but we're going in a few weeks. Yep. And that's what I see in the pictures and the magazines I've seen. It's the attention to detail of every little thing that sets you apart and the experience apart from other restaurants.
That's perfectly put. That is what we intentionally do. We set up our restaurant, our brand. We're in Kentucky. Yeah. Kentucky is known for horses. Kentucky's known for bourbon.
Yep.
We are bourbon
It's a foodie
capital.
Place too.
It's a wonderful foodie place.
Yeah.
But what we did was to say, if you go anywhere in Kentucky, you can go to a horse farm, you can go to a bourbon something, you can, sit on the leather couches in the wood, you can feel like you're in Kentucky. We did the opposite of that. We wanted you to come and feel like you'd walked into your grandma's house from 1970, and she lives down in West Palm Beach. And so the House of Marigold does not feel like Louisville, Kentucky for a reason. Yep. And I think that's a big reason why people love it.
Yeah, because it's different, right?
So different.
Yeah, it's so different. Well, Kris, thank you so very much. I love what we've talked about. And, just to kind of bring it all together, talking about being intentional, just trying, taking those first steps, not being scared to ask for help and ask for somebody to be a mentor to you. Thinking about being intentional. How are we separating our work life from our personal life, and how can we be there for our spouse and our kids and for ourselves? I always say self-care is so important, and so many times we're the ones that we forget about, right? But it's having to be intentional about yourself as well. And then just thinking about if there was anything that we had to go back and do again, maybe it would maybe to anticipate some of the challenges that there are when it comes to staffing, developing some leadership skills a little bit earlier. That's all just really, really great advice. And I've really enjoyed hearing about your journey along with Adrienne's. And sometime we'll have you back, and she'll have to join us too for the podcast.
Yeah. No,
I'd love to have her on too. So
we would love that. Thank you. This has been a wonderful experience. Love talking about business and love the world.
Yeah. Cheers to that. If you had we should have brought two, right?
Should've.
Cheers to that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Lasting Business Solutions podcast. I'm Renee, your host, and we'll see you next time.